1. Centers Afforestation Bill faces Rajya Sabha stumble. GS Paper 2, Government Policies and Schemes. Why is it in news recently? The Compensatory Afforestation Fund, CAF, bill listed for business in Rajya Sabha in the ongoing parliamentary session has been postponed to the monsoon session of Parliament. The Congress leader had moved an amendment to the CAF bill calling for greater participation of Gram Sabhas in decisions pertaining to the development of forest plantations under the proposed law. Centre's plans to spend nearly Rs 42,000 crore under the afforestation program now hang in the balance. What do you mean by compensatory afforestation? Compensatory afforestation pertains to development of new forests to compensate for loss of existing forest area due to their transfer for non-forestry purposes, such as setting up of industries, building roads, etc. This is as per a provision under the Rules to the Forest Conservation Act, 1980. The user agency which seeks the diverted forest land is rule-bound to provide the land or the funds to plant the trees. Currently, funds accumulated through the implementation of this provision are being managed by an ad hoc authority set up by the Supreme Court. The objections to the bill. According to the Campaign for Survival and Dignity, a federation of tribal and forest dwellers organizations from 11 states, this bill allows states to plant a huge number of trees, or undertake other forest management projects, in natural landscapes, such as grasslands, natural open forests, grazing areas, common lands or people's cultivated lands, without checking if people have rights over them, and without consulting them about where they should be planted, what species should be planted, and what impact this will have on their lives. Plantations have been one of the major sources of conflict in forest areas, as forest bureaucrats routinely use them as a way to get more people's land under their control, the organization notes in a statement. As a result of loss of access to land, many tribal groups have been pushed to starvation, they note. Compensatory afforestation bill has been extensively covered in previous videos. If you want much more, please do ask us. 2. Core inflation higher than desired, Rajan. GS Paper 3, Indian Economy, Inflation. What did RBI Governor said economic conditions? India's core inflation remains a bit higher than policymakers would like, but the economy's recovery should accelerate with a good monsoon. One issue for India is that banks remain reluctant to lend and to reduce rates for borrowers, despite 150 bits per second basis points of rate cuts in the past year. To ensure rate cuts feed into the economy, the RBI has injected billions of rupees via open market bond purchases and cut daily maintenance of bank cash reserve ratios. What is core inflation? Core inflation is a measure of inflation that excludes certain items that face volatile price movements. Core inflation eliminates products that can have temporary price shocks because these shocks can diverge from the overall trend of inflation and give a false measure of inflation. A dynamic consumption basket is considered the basis to obtain core inflation. Some goods and commodities have extremely volatile price movements. Core inflation is calculated using the Consumer Price Index, CPI, by excluding such commodities. If temporary price shocks are taken into account, they may affect the estimated overall inflation numbers in such a way that they are different from actual inflation. To eliminate this possibility, core inflation is calculated to gauge the actual inflation apart from temporary shocks and volatility.